Advisor and Chief of Staff to the Chairman of the FCC. Adonis, thank you so much for sharing part of your Saturday with us. TikTok is mostly known for silly dances. Why should the United States ban it?
Well, good morning, Boris. Thanks for having me. You know, we have to keep this in context. Right now, there is a raging debate in Congress, both houses of Congress, as to how to regulate big tech companies like Facebook, Amazon, Google, Twitter, et cetera. And so those are U.S. companies with great capacity. So think about it. We're talking about regulating American companies, and yet the notion of regulating a company owned by a Chinese company, which has strong ties to the Chinese government, is maybe not on the table. And I think that we've got to look at this as an external existential threat in terms of state-sponsored cyber security, state-sponsored cyber warfare. And that's really the context in which we're operating today.
Adonis, do you have any evidence or indication that the Chinese Communist Party has gathered Americans' data via TikTok, that they've used it as some kind of a backdoor?
Well, I think the evidence is certainly circumstantial, and there are those who are expert in the area of cybersecurity who can probably address those. I think we have to look at what the facts as they are on the table. As you pointed out in the intro, TikTok, which ByteDance is the parent company. And by the way, TikTok is only one product of that company. There are many others. But TikTok has its own privacy policy, says it has the authority and the capacity to share that data in the United States of Americans with any of its partners, and its partners could and probably do include the Chinese government.
So is there anything that TikTok or ByteDance could do in these negotiations with the U.S. government that would make you think it's safe and that maybe your family members, people you know, are safe to use it without fear of getting their data stolen?
So the discussion up to now has been, sort of bifurcated: ban TikTok or allow it to keep going. And I think there may be some, perhaps a different, a middle path. As you know, banning an app is very difficult, practically, technologically. And then there's just the human element, which is, if we're told not to do something, we're going to find a way to do it. So I think, an outright ban is going to be practically very, very difficult to enforce. On the other hand, I think that the real crux of this is going to turn on government to government negotiations. As you mentioned, the United States is already in negotiations with the Chinese government as to a number of security issues. This should be first, very, very top, sort of at the top of the agenda. And it's going to turn on the ability of our diplomats and our security experts in the U.S. government and the executive branch to extract the kinds of concessions and conditions from the Chinese government under which TikTok and ByteDance could operate in the U.S. context, preserving the privacy, data security protections that we all come to expect from these kinds of companies.
Yeah, extracting concessions from the Chinese government that it adheres to over time is a tall order. But Adonis, I wanted to ask you, because a lot of users of TikTok are very young and they may not be fully aware of the potential consequences of the CCP having access to Americans' data. What are the possible consequences of that?
That's really the sinister part of this, Boris. It's a very simple app. All you got to do is download it on your phone and away you go. And the notion that if you have talent or you're funny or what have you, you can make a lot of money on TikTok. I mean, there's a whole generation of users now who want to grow up and aspire to be a TikTok star or, social media star and reap millions and millions of dollars. So, that's sort of that's the practical issue, social issue we have to deal with. With respect to using their data, we don't know what the outer limits are. This is a new generation of potential American leaders who have opened the door to all of their sensitive financial data, their keystrokes, their health data, who they're talking to, and God knows how broad and wide that data trove is and can be used for whatever nefarious purposes. We're now in election season, and we know that the Chinese government has used data use cyber tactics for nefarious purposes to draw divisions among people in the United States. And this is just one expression of potential threats and risks that we face going forward.
It is a fascinating conversation, and we appreciate you sharing your insight with us. Adonis Hoffman, thank you so much for the time.
Thank you, Boris.
Hey, stay with CNN. We'll be right back.